What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and I want to make a review video, my thoughts on the machine learning specialization. And my goal here for this video is basically, if you are contemplating taking this specialization, do I think it is good? What do I think is good? Who do I think it is for? I give you an idea and a sense of what you will learn and where you will be after this specialization. And then basically, just give you, so you can have a good expectation, or have an expectation if it's a good one for you. So let me just give some context first. I think in general, I want to say most people, but many people at least got started with machine learning thanks to the professor Andrew Ng, who is the teacher in this course, or the instructor. He made the go-to course was Machine Learning by Andrew Ng, that was created many years ago, and through time it's still been very useful and people have still taken it, but it's been outdated, I would say, for a little bit because of the reason that they use MATLAB and Octave, which is not the programming language of choice for machine learning anymore. Nowadays that's using Python. So the biggest change, I would say, it's pretty much the same material as that course. It's just now updated using Python, and the videos are better quality, audio is better quality, the explanations are a little bit refined. The material has changed slightly, but it's basically the same, I would say. That course was really good. It was the go-to, and Andrew Ng is I would say, the best teacher I've ever had. The way that he explains things are, he guides you through a topic so that you build intuition, and that you can really just trust that his explanations are, I don't know how to explain that. The information that he's conveying, everything is there, and so if there's something that you're missing, you can just rewind and replay, and eventually you'll get it. That way, I have high expectations for this course because it's taught by Andrew Ng, and it replaces the best course on machine learning. So if we just look at an overall, right, it's 4.9 out of 5 with 3,600 ratings. So that tells you that this is a highly regarded course. It doesn't have that many ratings, but it's relatively new still. So, all right, who is this course, or this specialization rather, for? I would say that it's a really good specialization to take if you want to get into machine learning, or get started with machine learning and build a solid foundation. So, I think if you now have basic knowledge of Python, and you have some mathematics background, or you have high school math, I guess, preferably maybe you would have like a calculus course. But if you have high school math and you have Python, then you can take the specialization. So what can you expect, sort of? I'll go into the course structure and how the videos look like, and the assignments and all of that stuff. But as an overview, I just want to show you like what you can expect to learn. So for an overview first, I would say that you learn about the basics of machine learning. You learn about how the things work. You'll get an introduction to many different areas of machine learning, so that you have sort of a better map of where you can categorize things, and basically how the machine learning landscape looks like. I won't say that it gives you like a thorough overview, but it does give you a good foundation. So for the first course, and it's split into 3 different courses. For the first course, it's supervised machine learning, regression, and classification. You'll basically learn what machine learning is, what supervised learning is, which is a branch of machine learning, what unsupervised learning is, what regression, what classification is, and then you'll build these models using popular machine learning libraries. So you learn about NumPy and scikit-learn. You'll also build models using linear regression and logistic regression. And you'll learn about concepts related to machine learning that are necessary, like gradient descent. And I mean, if we go into here, what will you learn more about? Cost function, what that is, feature scaling and normalization of features, vectorization. Now, like, it's difficult to explain what you learn when you don't know what those things are, but it will give you a good foundation in the most basic topics of machine learning. For course 2, you learn about it's called advanced learning algorithms, and you'll basically focus on neural networks for this one using TensorFlow. I'll go into my personal thoughts of what can be improved, what I didn't like, but just as right now, you'll learn about neural networks with TensorFlow, and you'll also learn how to go about a machine learning project, how to debug if things aren't working, what to focus on, so you can spend your time more effectively. And then you'll learn about decision trees, which is a common machine learning algorithm, and also tree ensemble methods. Then for course 3, you'll learn about unsupervised learning, methods for that or algorithms for that. Most common algorithm, which is k-means clustering. Then you'll build a recommender system, and recommender systems are basically what Netflix is using for recommending movies based on what you've watched and what your friends have watched and so on, or other users. So you'll build a model for that, and then you'll learn about reinforcement learning, which is basically what is being used mostly for games, and you can how you can learn an algorithm or an agent, in this case for reinforcement learning, to interact with the environment in a game and how it can learn to play the game at a high level. So that's just an overview of it. I'm trying to reflect a little bit on how I can show you this the best, but I think you have a sense of what you'll learn a little bit. And so I want to show you the course structure. There are varied number of weeks, but usually 3 or 4 weeks for each course. So this is the first course. And then what you'll have is you'll basically have a couple of video lectures, and I'll show you how they look like. It's basically Andrew explaining things, right? A lecture. And then usually there are questions like this. Let's see. There's usually pop-up questions here to make sure that you have followed and understand the material, which is really good, I believe. And then you have a graded quiz. So you'll watch a couple of videos, and you also have some optional labs that you can go through and get more information about, in this case, NumPy and vectorization. And then you'll have a graded quiz that you're supposed to complete. You'll have more videos, you'll have another quiz, and then in the end, you'll usually have a programming assignment. So here everything is on Coursera, and you'll basically you'll work through their Jupyter Notebook and follow what you're supposed to do, and then submit the assignment. So I'll just show you, it's pretty much the same for each course on Coursera, especially by the deep learning AI team, where you have, let's see if this loads. So you'll basically have you have pre-written code, and then they give you a lot of information in it. And then here, for example, they have a graded function, and here you're supposed to, for example, here I was supposed to add the code that was for this one. And then there are multiple of those basically. So that's how they look like. That's the course structure. And again, so I just want to reiterate that, Andrew Ng, who is the professor for this, you are in the best hands that you could be when it comes to learning about machine learning. He is, as I told you one of the best, or if not the best, for explaining these things. So you're in good hands, and it's a good course. It's a good specialization to take, I believe, if you want to learn about machine learning, and you'll get a good introduction. Probably one that's better than, I mean, the courses I've done on university, I don't think holds up to this standard when it comes to introduction to machine learning. That's just my opinion. All right, so what do I think is, let's talk about the negatives, because I think there are, I mean, mostly what I've said is that this is a phenomenal specialization, right? There are definitely things that I feel can be improved. For example, first, just one thing is that I think these pop-up questions are sometimes incredibly simplistic and don't really challenge you. I mean, it's difficult for me to say because I've learned about these things, right? But even if I was learning from the beginning, I still feel like some of these questions are kind of, almost insulting in that they are really simplistic. So some are good and some are really simplistic. I think they could have put these questions generally on a higher level and challenge the viewer more. I think these labs here, because they're optional, I think most people actually skip them. And also, you don't write any code in these. So I don't really like that. And I think you should just make, it's good that you have them, but I would rather just have a lab that you can complete at least, and you write some code, and so you can step through it as an exercise. So I'm not a big fan of these optional labs, although I do think they are really good that they're there for more information. The quizzes also, I feel, are too simplistic. I feel like you should make them more challenging. And yeah, same for the programming assignments. Sometimes there's incredibly little code to write by yourself. So I feel like to really learn about these things more in depth, I think you could have more challenging labs. You know, what this really does is it puts, I mean, if you're taking the specialization and you want to learn, it's still good. It just means that you have to maybe like take extra steps yourself to make sure that you learn things on a deeper level. So basically, I would say take a little bit of responsibility to make sure that you really understand things, because I do think it's easy to pass some of these assignments without really understanding how things really work. So just keep that in mind and keep yourself in check that you really do understand these things before moving on. So that's what I would say. And I guess other than that, like a small detail, I guess, is there's very little machine learning algorithms. There's decision trees and random forests, but I would have liked an XGBoost. I would have also liked to have, principal component analysis, maybe k-nearest neighbor, maybe support vector machines and so on, which they did have for the original course, but they replaced it instead with decision trees for this one, which you can understand, and it's perhaps a good decision. So another thing I wanted to add also on what I think can be improved is that they use TensorFlow for their neural network library. I do think that this would have been better to have with PyTorch. In general, deeplearning.ai uses TensorFlow and defaults to that, but in my opinion, PyTorch is better, but it's pretty easy to transfer your knowledge from TensorFlow to PyTorch. So I don't think that's a big con, but I do think it would have been an improvement. That is one thing that I just wanted to add on what I think can be improved. Now, I also wanted to give you a little bit more, for those of you who want more detail on what you'll actually learn or what the topics are. So you'll learn about, you get an overview of machine learning, supervised versus unsupervised, regression, what regression is, how you do it, and then gradient descent, learning rates, stuff like that. And then for week 2, you will learn about multiple linear regression, gradient descent in practice. So this is how you normalize features, how you check that it's converged, how you go about choosing the learning rate, what is feature engineering, and then in week 3 you will talk about overfitting or bias and high variance. So it will be about logistic regression. You'll learn about cost function for it, gradient descent, overfitting, regularization as a solution to the overfitting problem. And that's basically it for course 1. For course 2, you will learn about neural networks, intuition and how they work, their derivation or what the connection is to the brain, basically how you build neural networks and what they are composed of. Then you'll learn about TensorFlow a little bit, how you code simple things, what forward propagation is, general implementation of it. You also get an overview of AGI and Andrew's thoughts on that, which is a little bit of a hyped topic maybe. And then vectorization, how you can basically make the code run faster. Then for week 2, you will learn about neural network training, how you go about training, how you improve training, or how you use activation functions for it to learn more complex patterns, multi-class classification, what you need to adapt to basically use a softmax activation. You'll also learn about more advanced optimization methods to make it train faster. Then for week 3, you will learn about, this is more advice for applying machine learning. So what do you try next if things don't work? And how do you debug so that you know what to try next? And how do you split your data sets into training, cross-validation, test set, so you can actually do proper evaluation of your neural networks? And then, checking for bias and variance, checking for learning rates with learning curves. So basically, this is just for debugging your neural networks and error analysis and your iteration of your development of your machine learning project. And then also for skewed data sets, if it's a very imbalanced data set, how do you deal with that? Then you might need other machine learning metrics to check for your how good your model is. And then in week 4, you'll step back from neural networks and you'll learn about decision trees, random forests, and boosted trees, which is, these are really good for tabular data and are sort of the go-to. XGBoost is sort of the go-to for tabular data, and it performs really well on that. So you learn about that in week 4. Then for course 3, the unsupervised learning, recommenders, and reinforcement learning, you will learn about k-means clustering, which is a very common algorithm. You learn about anomaly detection, and you don't know what these things are mostly, but maybe you've heard of them. So I'm just giving you a rough overview of what you'll learn. But going into depth in this would just take too long. Then you'll learn about, for recommender systems, you'll learn about basically different methods of how you go about building a recommender system, how you use deep learning for building that. And that's basically it for recommender systems. For week 3, you will learn about reinforcement learning. And so you learn what it is, key concepts, most important definitions like state action value function, Bellman equations, which is then used to derive an update formula for how you train your agent. And you'll learn about continuous state spaces. And then you'll do and for each week you have a graded programming assignment. So that's the overview of all of the weeks. Thought that would be just useful to add so that you have it. All right, so what have we talked about? We've talked about a little bit what you'll learn, what the different courses are about, what the prerequisites are. Let's talk about also, it takes, here it says approximately 3 months to complete with a 9 hours pace a week. I think, so I completed this in a pretty short time, but I think if I was learning this from the beginning, I would say maybe it takes 1 month if you spend time on it. So if you do decide to spend quite a lot of time on it, you can definitely do it in 1 month. And the specialization is does cost. It costs $50 a month until you complete it, which you can argue what you feel about that, but at least it gives you some incentive to finish it early or finish it fast. So, and I definitely do think it's possible to finish in under a month, which means that you just pay $50. And there's also financial aid. If I've seen some people get financial aid if you don't have the money to pay for a specialization, and I do think they're quite generous in giving those out. But yeah, so that's the machine learning specialization. Basically, my general thoughts is I do recommend it. I think if you want to learn about machine learning, this is a really good place to start. And if you're interested in where you should go next, let me know, and I could make future videos on what follow-up courses I think are good after you have the knowledge from this one. All right, that's it for me. Thanks for watching the video, and I hope that it helped you get an understanding of this specialization and if it's interesting and good for you. All right, see you in the next video.